Good morning, everyone. Good morning out there in WYLL land, my Christian brothers and sisters. This is Father Tom Koys, and you are listening to Unlike Other Nations.
And I'm John Koys, Father Tom's brother.
The smarter one? Well, I don't know.
Just older.
He's better looking than I am, I guess. Listen, I'm glad you joined us this morning. We have a very interesting topic today. Actually, depending on when this show airs, either it's going to be the Sunday of or the Sunday before, a very big feast in the Catholic Church, especially in the United States, especially in the Americas. It's called Guadalupe. So if you've heard, I'm sure everybody's heard a little bit about Guadalupe. Mm-hmm. Some people may not know all the details. There are new details coming out, actually, in recent days, so please stay tuned, and I think you will be fascinated and understand something very miraculous, very powerful that happened a long time ago in a little town, which is on a hill in the middle of what is now known as Mexico City. We have with us today, John, a producer of a new flick, a new movie.
New film.
Yes. I happened to meet Tim Watkins at a preview. He was here in Chicago not long ago, and he's still putting this production together, and he was looking for some feedback, and he showed the preview of this show. John, why don't you say hello to him and bring him on?
Hello, Mr. Watkins. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on this morning.
I'm very curious about your movie and how it came together. And we'll chat with you for about half an hour on this. Let me start out by asking, why are you making this movie on this time, Mr. Watkins?
Well, when I first started on the project about 4 years ago, I can't believe it's been that long, the opportunity was put in front of me, and I honestly did not know much more than probably most of the listeners at that one given time knew about Guadalupe. It was a Mexican apparition of the Virgin Mary.
Yes.
What unfolded in the time of research and development in the project was a story that is so rich, so deep, that in our story we cover 1,500 years plus, and even talk about what its meaning is, what we believe its meaning is today. The story of Providence, a story that has been in the making since the times of Jesus Christ.
It was 1534, I believe.
1531.
I'm sorry, 3 years off. 1531
when the apparition occurred.
When this lady appeared to an Indian man by the name of Juan Diego, to set the stage for some people. But really, the whole story can't be understood out of the context of the history of the new world that was just being discovered. And if our listeners have seen the movie Apocalypto, a very tough portrayal of the world in the now known country of Mexico, the Aztec and Mayan populations, I wouldn't recommend it for my kindergartners, but it's a
little bloody.
It's a little bit bloody, unfortunately, because it's realistic. It shows pretty well the human sacrifices that was part of the Mayan and Aztec cultures. And at the very end of the movie, Mel does a little twist, as the story is mostly about a husband and wife who are ripped apart because he's stolen and brought into slavery, and he's almost killed on the altar, but he gets away, and they're running away from the other tribesmen who are chasing him. But at the end of the movie, when they finally escape, they come to the shore, and all of a sudden you see 3 big boats out on the ocean, and they wonder, what the heck are those? And it's just a reference to what's coming. Is that included in your movie, Tim?
Well, I think we dive more directly into the evangelization by the Spaniards, but that point is an amazing point. My thesis for this, as well as a previous movie, basically life is a battle of good versus evil, and history repeats itself. Just because we put uniforms on the soldiers in Europe during the 800 Years' War doesn't make it any more civil than the sacrificing that was done in the indigenous territories at about the same time. It's very interesting. One of our angles talks about how when man becomes distant from God, and a lot of times the distance is created because of a leader who is exceptional in his ways of moving people along in a certain way, that they distance themselves from God and they start to believe too much in man and not enough in God.
Well said, well said.
We go back in the early parts of the movie and talk about, Rome, in Rome where there was abortion, prostitution, and bloody spectacle, to the point where we reference in the end of the movie, we're not really that much different, are we, today?
History repeats itself.
History does repeat itself time and time again, and I sometimes wonder if God isn't up there scratching his head going, when will these people get it right?
I think he is.
But
exactly.
We've had so many opportunities and so many different ways over the years that we often lose our frame of reference.
Okay.
Tim,
let's remind listeners of the title of the movie. I don't think we've mentioned that yet.
Right. The title of the movie is The Blood and the Rose, and there is a website, thebloodandtherose, all one word, .com, where there's a couple of trailers up there and some information as we get closer to the release of the film. We also, of course, in this day and age, we have Facebook a friends page for Facebook as well. So
Great.
We're trying to start spreading the word right now. Our hero for the movie, one would think the hero would be the Virgin Mary, which, of course, it's hard for her not to be a hero.
Right.
But we like to try and have a hero that we can relate to, which is actually Juan Diego. And Juan Diego's Nahuatl, his indigenous name was, and I can never say this completely correctly, but Coatlicalic, I think it was, but translates into speaking eagle or messenger eagle. And I think it's incredibly providential that this humble man was chosen, even to, saying to the Virgin Mary, I'm not worthy, I'm not someone of nobility, and she's saying you're the precise person that needs to carry out this task, is a message that cannot be left deaf in our ears as to a message to us as to what we need to be, the messenger eagles for today.
Okay, let's recap, Tim, the miracle of Our Lady of Guadalupe for those few who may not be familiar with it. Let's recap the story briefly.
The short story or the long one?
Well, let's do the short story. We don't have a lot of time.
Well, the short story is that the Virgin Mary appeared to Juan Diego on his way to church, and over the course of 4 days, December 8th, 9th, 10th, December 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, she appeared to him and sent him to the bishop to tell the bishop to build a church on what is known as Tepeyac Hill. And it's important that Tepeyac Hill was also a former resting place of a shrine, if you will, to the indigenous culture of Tonatzin, who was in their religious order was the mother of the one true God. So it's kind of interesting that would happen in a similar place.
Yes.
And she sent him with a message to the bishop, and the bishop was sort of kind of like, okay, I hear you, but I don't really believe you. And then he went back, and subsequently she said, you need to go again. He went again, and he rebuked him again. And so he goes back and tells her, I'm not worthy.
The bishop's
she
not
says,
listening.
come back
to him.
tomorrow, we'll send you with a message. Well, lo and behold, he gets home, and his uncle, Juan Bernardino, the elder statesman of the family, was ill. And so the next morning, Juan Diego set out to get a priest to pray for him. And on his way, he thought that he would be crafty and avoid the Virgin Mary and go around the other side of the hill. Fortunately, she's smarter than that. and she encounters him and says, do not worry, your uncle will be healed. And so with that, she sent him to the top of the hill. Mind you, this is December 12th, and yes, even though it's down in Mexico, it's quite cold in December in Mexico, and flowers don't grow. She told him to pick flowers from up at the top of the hill, and there were just magnificent flowers, roses, and flowers of all sorts, that he gathered into his tilma, which is a farming garment, which, if you would, it's roughly about twice the length of the height of a man, and you fold it and you wrap it around your neck so that you're easily able to carry goods with you from the field.
About a minute, Tim, to the break.
Okay, so she arranged the flowers. He took the flowers to the bishop, and you know, he had a hard time getting back into the bishop's house, but finally they let him in when they saw something very strange about what he had in his garment. He goes in, he sees the bishop. The bishop says to show him what he's got. Juan Diego thinks he's going to show a bunch of flowers, and he lets the flowers fly out, and lo and behold, this image that is just under 500 years old, which exists today in the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City, about as tall as a 6-foot man or woman, and is on display in perfect condition today. That image appeared on this tilma and became the source of inspiration for a conversion of 9 million Aztecs to Catholicism.
Very good. Tim, we're going to hold you over the break, and if you can come back with us, I want our listeners to know what you're talking about there and to see why we should care. Why is this important? I mean, something happened 500 years ago in a different country. What does that mean to us today? Please stay tuned. We'll see you on the other side.